Have you ever stopped to think about how the food you're storing in your fridge could be harming your health? Especially as you get older. For many of us, the refrigerator is a trusted tool to keep food fresh. But what if I told you that certain everyday foods can actually lose their nutritional value or even become harmful when refrigerated? Surprising, right? Yet, research shows that many older adults, even those over 60, unknowingly refrigerate foods in ways that can reduce their health benefits and affect their digestion. This isn't just about taste or texture. The real concern is how cold storage can disrupt nutrients, create harmful bacteria, and even trigger negative chemical reactions in food. In fact, studies suggest that nearly 4 out of 10 seniors still store these foods in the fridge, unaware of the risks. In today's video, we will explore the 9 foods that should never be refrigerated and why. By the end, you'll know exactly how to store them correctly to keep their health benefits intact. Before we dive in, if you have not subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. And if you find this video helpful, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0, so I know how to improve and bring you better content. Now, let's begin with the first food to avoid storing in your fridge. Part 1. Potatoes. Let's start with an unexpected culprit, potatoes. It might seem harmless to store your potatoes in the fridge, but doing so actually causes a chemical reaction that turns the starches in the potato into sugar. This process, called cold-induced sweetening, is more dangerous than it sounds. The result is that when you later cook these potatoes, especially when frying or baking them at high temperatures, they produce a chemical called acrylamide, which has been labeled as a probable carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. Research from the University of Idaho discovered that within just 2 weeks of refrigeration, the sugar levels in potatoes can triple. This means that potatoes stored the wrong way not only lose flavor but can also contribute to harmful substances. Here's how you can store potatoes the right way. Keep them in a cool, dry, and dark place. The ideal storage temperature is between 45 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit. You can use a paper bag, a cardboard box, or even a basement or cellar to store them. Avoid plastic bags, as they trap moisture and lead to rot. And remember, never store them in direct light, as this can cause the potatoes to turn green, producing solanine, a toxin. By following these simple guidelines, your potatoes can stay fresh for up to 3 months, while storing them in the fridge can make them go bad in just 2 weeks. What do you think? Have you been storing potatoes in your fridge without realizing the impact? Let me know in the comments below. Part 2. Garlic. Next, let's talk about garlic. You might think it's safe to refrigerate garlic, but it can actually cause some serious issues for both its flavor and its health benefits. When garlic is stored in the fridge, it starts to sprout. And those green shoots not only make the garlic taste bitter, but can also irritate your stomach. But that's not all. The cold, humid environment of the fridge creates the perfect conditions for mold to develop on garlic. Some types of mold produce mycotoxins, which are toxic compounds that can harm your health. A study from UC Davis found that within just 10 days of refrigeration, garlic can lose up to 50% of its active compound, allicin, which is known for its antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, and immune-boosting properties. So, by refrigerating garlic, you're essentially reducing its medicinal effectiveness. The best way to store garlic is in a dry, cool area with good airflow. A mesh bag or open basket works well. and the ideal temperature is between 60 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Never store garlic in sealed plastic containers or bags, as it needs air to stay fresh. You can also avoid storing it near the stove, where heat and moisture can make it sprout more quickly. By storing garlic properly, you can preserve its health benefits and ensure it retains its full flavor and potency. Have you been refrigerating garlic? Share your experience in the comments. Part 3. Honey. Moving on to honey. One of nature's most perfect and long-lasting foods. You may think storing honey in the fridge is a good idea to keep it fresh, but it's actually one of the worst things you can do to this golden sweetener. Honey doesn't expire, and it can remain safe for consumption for centuries if stored correctly. But refrigeration speeds up its crystallization process. While crystallization is not harmful, it makes honey much harder to use. The once smooth and pourable honey becomes thick, gritty, and difficult to spread. The real issue, however, is when moisture gets trapped inside the jar, leading to a reduction in honey's antimicrobial properties. According to the National Honey Board, honey stored under 50 degrees Fahrenheit can lose up to 35% of its antibacterial and healing power, which is what made honey so valuable in ancient medicine. The best way to store honey is to keep it tightly sealed at room temperature, between 64 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit, away from sunlight. If your honey crystallizes, simply warm the jar in hot water and stir it. Don't worry, this won't destroy its nutrients. If you're buying dark honey, keep in mind it has more antioxidants, but it's more vulnerable to cold damage than lighter honey. By following these storage tips, your honey can remain as powerful and useful as it was when you first bought it. Have you been refrigerating your honey? Let me know in the comments if you've noticed a change in texture or flavor after storing it in the fridge. Part 4. Bread. Now, let's talk about bread, a staple in many households. You might think the fridge is a good place to store bread to keep it fresh for longer, but it actually speeds up the process of making bread stale. When bread is stored in the fridge, a process known as starch retrogradation occurs. This is when the starch molecules in the bread recrystallize, pushing out moisture and causing the bread to go dry and hard much faster. In fact, a study by the Institute of Food Technologists found that bread stored in the fridge becomes stale up to 6 times faster than bread stored at room temperature. This happens because the cold ruins the bread's natural flavor and texture, making it taste flat and cardboard-like. The best way to store bread is in a paper bag or bread box at room temperature. If you aren't going to finish the loaf in 5 to 7 days, freeze it instead. Slice it first. Then freeze the slices to lock in moisture and flavor. When you need it, simply toast the frozen slices directly from the freezer. What's your method for storing bread? Have you noticed it going stale quickly? Let me know in the comments below. Part 5. Onions. Next, let's discuss onions, a commonly used vegetable in many dishes. Storing whole onions in the fridge is one of the most common yet damaging mistakes people make. The cold temperatures of the fridge cause onions to absorb moisture, which promotes mold growth and ruins their texture. Onions thrive in a dry environment, ideally between 45 degrees Fahrenheit and 55 degrees Fahrenheit. The high humidity in the fridge accelerates the growth of mold, especially black mold, which can release harmful aflatoxins, known cancer-causing compounds. Additionally, storing onions in the fridge causes their starch to turn into sugar, which drastically changes the flavor, making your savory onions taste oddly sweet. The cold temperatures also damage their cellular structure, causing them to become soft and soggy. To preserve both flavor and texture, store whole onions in a cool, dry, well-ventilated place like a pantry or cellar. You can use a mesh bag, basket, or even clean pantyhose to hang them, ensuring they stay fresh longer. Once you cut an onion, however, it should be stored in the fridge in an airtight container and used within 7 days. But remember, whole onions never belong in the fridge. Let me know in the comments if you've been refrigerating your onions and whether you've noticed changes in taste or texture. Part 6. Coffee. For those who enjoy a cup of coffee every day, this next part may surprise you. Storing coffee in the fridge to keep it fresh is actually doing the opposite. Coffee beans are highly porous, meaning they absorb odors from everything around them, including leftovers, other food items, and even the fridge's air. That's why your coffee may taste off if stored in the fridge. Not only does it pick up unwanted smells, but the fluctuations in temperature cause condensation, which promotes mold growth and accelerates the breakdown of the beans. A study by the Specialty Coffee Association found that coffee stored in the fridge lost over 60% of its aroma in just 1 week. The oils in the beans, which carry the majority of the flavor, begin to solidify in cold temperatures, leaving you with flat, lifeless coffee instead of a rich, aromatic brew. The best way to store coffee is in a sealed, opaque container at room temperature, away from light, heat, and air. Keep it in a cupboard or pantry and only buy what you can consume within 2 weeks. If you need to store it for a longer period, freezing it is a better option than refrigerating it, but only in small portions to prevent damage from thawing and refreezing. Have you been storing your coffee in the fridge? Let me know your coffee storage habits in the comments. Part 7. Bananas. Bananas are a beloved fruit, but storing them in the fridge can seriously compromise their quality. When exposed to cold temperatures, bananas experience something known as chilling injury. This causes their cells to break down, which results in the fruit becoming mushy and the peel turning black. More importantly, refrigeration damages their ability to ripen properly, preventing the development of crucial nutrients like vitamin C. Research from Queensland's Department of Agriculture reveals that bananas kept in the fridge lose about 80% of their vitamin C within just 5 days. Refrigerating bananas also prevents them from ripening further, which is why they lose their natural sweetness and flavor. If you've noticed that bananas stored in the fridge taste bland or even sour, that's because the cold interrupts the ripening process and stunts the natural sugar production. To keep your bananas at their best, store them at room temperature in a dry area, ideally between 56 degrees Fahrenheit and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Hanging bananas on a hook is ideal since it prevents bruising and helps them ripen evenly. If you want to speed up the ripening process, place bananas in a paper bag with an apple, which releases ethylene gas to help them ripen faster. On the flip side, if you want to slow down ripening, wrap the stems in plastic wrap. Here's a helpful tip. Once your bananas are ripe, you can refrigerate them for up to 2 days if you must. But be aware the skin may turn dark. Alternatively, freezing ripe bananas is a great option for smoothies or baking. Have you been refrigerating your bananas? What changes have you noticed? Share your thoughts in the comments. Part 8. Tomatoes. Next up is a food that many people refrigerate without realizing the damage it causes tomatoes. Storing tomatoes in the fridge dramatically alters their texture and flavor. A study by the University of Florida found that refrigerating tomatoes can turn off hundreds of genes responsible for producing the compounds that give tomatoes their signature flavor and aroma. As a result, they become bland, watery, and lose their nutritional value. Tomatoes, especially ripe ones, are rich in lycopene, a powerful antioxidant that protects heart health and may reduce the risk of certain cancers. Unfortunately, when tomatoes are refrigerated, their lycopene levels drop by up to 65%, rendering this beneficial compound far less effective. Additionally, the cold temperatures damage the tomato's cellular structure, causing it to become mealy and mushy. To preserve the flavor and nutrients of tomatoes, store them at room temperature, ideally between 55 degrees Fahrenheit and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, with the stem side facing down. This helps prevent moisture from entering through the stem scar, which could lead to faster spoilage. Keep tomatoes out of direct sunlight, but don't store them in total darkness either. Avoid using plastic bags, as tomatoes release ethylene gas that can cause other produce to spoil faster. Do you refrigerate your tomatoes? How have they tasted after being chilled? Share your experiences with us in the comments. Part 9. Avocados. Now, let's talk about a food that's often stored in the fridge, but should never be kept there. Avocados. These nutritional powerhouses are packed with healthy fats, especially oleic acid, which is essential for brain function, especially as we age. However, refrigerating avocados can cause serious damage to their texture and nutritional content. The cold speeds up a process called lipid peroxidation, which breaks down healthy fats into harmful free radicals. This reduces the antioxidant strength of avocados by up to 90% in just 4 days. According to a study by Stanford University, the cold also activates an enzyme called polyphenol oxidase, which is responsible for the browning effect we see when avocados turn mushy. But in the fridge, this enzyme works overtime, turning the avocado from creamy and smooth to stringy and watery, while the good fats break down into bitter compounds. The result? An avocado that's lost its nutrients, flavor, and texture. To store avocados properly, keep them at room temperature, between 65 degrees Fahrenheit and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. If they're not ripe yet, place them in a bowl on your kitchen counter, away from direct sunlight. To speed up the ripening process, put them in a paper bag with an apple. Once ripe, you can refrigerate them for a short period, up to 2 to 3 days. But be aware that their quality will still degrade. If you've already cut into your avocado and don't finish it, here's a handy trick. Leave the pit in the leftover half. Brush the exposed part with lemon juice to prevent browning, and store it in an airtight container with a piece of onion. The sulfur in the onion slows down browning naturally, keeping the avocado fresh for up to 2 days at room temperature. Have you been storing your avocados in the fridge? What changes have you noticed in their texture or taste? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Final thoughts. In conclusion, it's clear that the refrigerator isn't always the friend we think it is, especially when it comes to storing certain foods. Many of the items we routinely refrigerate can lose vital nutrients, change in texture, or even become harmful to our health. From potatoes to garlic, honey, and avocados. Proper storage is essential for preserving their freshness and nutritional value. By following these simple tips and avoiding these common mistakes, you can make sure you're getting the most out of the foods you eat, maintaining both their flavor and their health benefits. The next time you're about to reach for the fridge, take a moment to think about whether that food really belongs there. It's all about keeping your body nourished with fresh, properly stored ingredients that support your health in the long term. Thank you for watching. If this video has been helpful to you, don't forget to like it, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel for more health tips. We'd love to hear from you. Which food surprised you the most? Have you been storing it in the fridge without realizing the potential harm? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. See you in the next video.